Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Steve Fretzin, and you are on the Be That Lawyer podcast. We're well over 500 episodes at this point. We are continuing to bring you the most impressive, amazing, incredible guests. No pressure, Gavin.
No pressure.
I just kind of threw that out to see the expression on your face. And you're like, what? Is he talking about, is he talking about me? I think, yes, of course I'm talking about you, man. But we're going to have some fun today. We're going to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. If you've been listening to the show for a while, congratulations. My hope is that every single episode you're getting multiple takeaways and ideas and things to help you grow your law practice. If you're new to the show, don't be shy. Go back and listen to past episodes. Pick and choose the ones that maybe make the most sense for you and where you are in this world. All right, Gavin, are you ready to get going and talk about your game chair? No, it's not game changing. What it is, it's favorite. It's quote of the show.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Hopefully my brain is okay. I think I just got a brain bruise. Is that a thing? A brain bruise? Yeah. All right. So here we go. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. And that's a Viktor Frankl. So welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about that quote.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I love that quote. Viktor Frankl, as you probably know, was a Holocaust survivor, went on to invent something called logotherapy. I love the quote. I think I'm right in saying, and now you're going to have all your listeners correct me, but I think part of it came from, he was in one of the concentration camps, and he realized that, the Nazis could take everything from him, but his freedom to choose how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And he was looking through the crack, I think, in like the ceiling of the cabin where they were kept in the Holocaust. I think it may have been Auschwitz. And he could see a tiny piece of blue sky. And he said, I'm going to choose to focus on that.
Mm.
And the relevance today for us, like what relevance does this have for our clients, for lawyers? Because we are obviously not comparable to what he experienced, but we spend our life on all the time. We're full on, we're stressed. We don't have time, at least we imagine we don't, to slow down.
Yeah.
And the whole emotional intelligence piece is, how can I actually choose? Can I respond instead of react? So that's why I picked that quote, because to me, it just underpins the whole EQ piece.
Well, it's almost like, cup is half full and looking at the blue sky, but then I think it's so much about not what happens to us in life. Because I've had tragedy and you have, and everyone has had some form of tragedy. And it's how we respond that sort of defines who we become and how we choose a path. And it could be negative and depressing and going into a deep, dark hole, or it can be something where maybe we learn a lesson or we go, okay, so this is how I responded. It made things worse or made things better. But I think that's a lot of lawyers' lives too, is like there's a fire hose in their face, and it's like, how do we respond to the fire hose, and how do we handle, do we duck? Do we open our mouth wider? Like, what are we going to do to kind of, live the life we want to live? And it's great for this show. That's really what this is all about, is lawyers living their best possible lives. Well, I want to thank you for that. And I want to just briefly introduce you. Gavin Sharpe, everybody, is the CEO of Riviera Wellbeing. And you're in Monte Carlo. I mean, you're such an interesting, person and place and everything you're doing. Share your background and give us a sort of an idea of where you come from and what you're up to these days.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So, like many of the guests you've had on the show, former attorney, I started life at Allen Overy, so now A&O Shearman, and then had a stint at another law firm that's now CMS. I realized law wasn't for me. Did it to make the parents happy, so tick box. And then as a junior litigator, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? Because the skills are not as transferable as mom and dad told me they were going to be. So I went into legal search, and I spent the next 15 years after working for another company setting up a legal search business. In the UK, we scaled the business. I mean, I started it with my business partner in the back of a Starbucks in Fleet Street, and then we grew it and we scaled it. And our timing, timing is everything. Our timing was great because it was when all of the US law firms were coming into Europe. They wanted to, as they still are, steal from the great Magic Circle firms and others and open their offices, and we were there to do it for them. So did that for about 15 years, and then realized what's the next chapter in my life? Where do I go from here? I feel like I've done this. I was working very long hours. I wouldn't say I was burned out, but I was on the track to being burned out, something which all of you and I work with clients all the time who either are on that track or they've got there. So, long story short, my partners bought me out the business. And then about 15 years ago, became a coach. I did a master's in psychotherapy, which was probably the best training I had to be a coach, but that's a different story. And now spend most of my time coaching lawyers from the top law firms, coaching groups, coaching teams. My tagline on LinkedIn is turning potential into performance. Because probably like you, I just love this idea that all of us have got this untapped
Yeah.
resource, talent. How can we be, you just said it, how can we be the best version of ourselves?
Yeah.
And I believe all of us have this ability, capacity to evolve, to grow, to be better, to grow our books of businesses, to grow as team leaders. And that's the stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. That's amazing. And there's nothing that sort of bothers me and also excites me more than when I evaluate a lawyer's potential and recognize that there's a massive gap in skills or a massive gap in mindset that will get them to a level they never realized they could get to. And it's like I'm dealing with a guy right now who's a former military, and the guy can follow orders. The guy's been successful his whole career. He's at a $500,000, and he should be at $3 to $5 million a year without question. But what's missing is those gaps is the difference between where he is and where he will be. That nothing excites me more than that potential in a person, in a lawyer.
Completely agree. So we get excited by the same, I'll say professional stuff, because I don't know what excites you personally. We'll stay on the professional. But we
You're
get
both
excited
good.
with this. But the example when I do keynotes, I often start, it's a bit of an overused one, but I start with the Roger Bannister running the mile in whatever it is less than they believe you couldn't run it in a certain period of time. And until that point in time, everybody said there is no way that you can run it in whatever it was. I think it's now, I've forgotten it is. I can look at less than 4 minutes, I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I mean, for me, it's like 4 hours. So they came up, science said basically it can only be done under certain conditions. If the wind is a certain direction, if the temperature is a certain. So he goes and does it on a wet, windy day. And the first time he does it. And then 6 weeks later, someone else does it.
Mm.
And then 2 weeks later, someone else does it. Because what's changed? Nothing's changed other than, oh, you can run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Oh, I'll do that then. And that for, you use the word mindset, which is what made me think about it. It's just about the mindset, how that can unlock our potential. And that for me, that's the stuff that I love.
Well, let's go back to your training in psychotherapy. What would you say is the one thing that you pulled out of that training that has helped you to work more effectively with lawyers?
I think it's probably it's a great question, and I'd say it's just a global. It's understanding, which is going to take us into all sorts of topics, into rainmaking, into development. It's understanding the mindset. I think it's understanding that we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for connection. We're looking to be seen. We're looking to be validated. I need that in my personal relationship. I need it in my work. My clients are looking for it. And so when I'm coaching someone, I have a human being in front of me who wants exactly the same as I've wanted out of life. And so what that does is just enables me to laser focus very quickly on what's really going on here. What are the issues? And then, I have a supervisor, and she says the difference between coaching and therapy. What we're doing in therapy is we're helping someone process the trauma, make sense of it, and come to terms with it. We're not doing that in coaching. What we're doing, and this is where the therapy this is where the therapy training helps. We're helping someone make the link to break the link.
Mm.
Where did this show up in your past? Okay, so dad drove you very hard. We now get why you're super competitive. Take that to therapy, but how is that showing up in the workplace? How is that affecting you building up the type of book of business that you want? So that's, I think, the best thing that the training gave me, just being able to have that laser focus on the person in front of me.
Yeah. Hey everybody, do you ever wonder why top executives and athletes are so successful? It's typically because they have a coach, someone that is looking at them from the outside to identify their gaps, identify their potential. That's what I do. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I'm here to help you be that lawyer. If you're interested in a free consultation, click the link below and we'll get together and we'll identify where you can make improvements to be that lawyer. I want to give you a funny story. My father passed over a year ago. He was a 40-year practicing lawyer, and I was coaching my son's soccer team, which I did for like 8 years. And I think it was the second or third year. And I'm running around on the sidelines, shouting to the kids what to do and giving orders. And apparently I was blocking my father's view of the game. And so I remember him saying, "Get out of my way, get out of my way." And I went, "Dad, I'm coaching the kids here." And he goes, "You ain't coaching nothing." And I was like, okay, there's my childhood, right? Should I start breaking down and crying, Gavin? What do you
Yeah,
think I should do?
yeah.
But like, it was like getting a compliment out of my dad, or it was
Yeah.
an endless, criticism of what he believed was right and wrong. And guy was the most amazing man in the world, but from a number of perspectives, and I hope that am more encouraging to my kid than he was with me in some instances. But it's
Great
amazing.
story.
But
Great story.
like our past in we just ignore that as we move into rainmaking. We ignore our past and what's happened and our trauma and our the way that we came up and expect to just automatically flip a switch and become a different person.
Yeah, I will always do I mean, it's not that uncommon for coaches, a discovery session pre-starting the coaching work. I mean, it's not pre because it's all part of the work. I do want to understand a little bit about what was life like growing up, because that story that you just gave, that's going to inform some of our work together. Now, I have to be careful I don't see everything through that lens. He had a commanding father. So I need to be careful I don't, over attribute everything to it. But those snippets, those stories are going to help us in our work together. They're going to help you see how some of your team relate to you, how some of your clients might relate to you. And if we know that, we can unblock it. It's a great
Yeah.
story.
Wow. Thank you. I mean, and again, I do talk about my father on the show, the late great Larry Fretzin, quite a bit, and his mindset, and I mean, he did something incredible in his lifetime and helped a lot of people. One thing that we did talk about was if you guys want to check it out, it's our episode number 200. My father was 87 at the time, and I interviewed him, and he never really considered himself a rainmaker. And he never really considered himself out marketing or business developing. And we uncovered in that interview that he was. It just wasn't called that then, because you practice in the 80s or 90s, it was sort of looked down upon. So how does a lawyer really know that they're either a rainmaker or that they have great potential to be a rainmaker? Are there things that are behind the scenes that they should be, maybe traits that they have, or things that are just signs that they should be focused on that area?
I think every lawyer has the potential to be a rainmaker. And now we kind of get a bit legalistic because we get, well, what's the definition of a rainmaker? And this in itself is also part of, I think, the problem that we have this perception. Lawyers have this perception that the rainmaker is this extroverted personality who's the life and soul of the party. They go to the cocktail party, they're giving out the business cards, they're winning the clients. In my experience, they're few and far between. Of course, they exist. And some of those people also, having spent years in search, I mean, they were gold dust to me because they also, they would bounce around every 3 years. I knew they'd be back in my office 3 years later because they come with a lot of baggage. They fall out with their teams, etc. So, but it seems to be the benchmark of that's what a rainmaker is. And for me, and I have to remember what your question was now, but I think anyone has the potential to be a rainmaker. We have to find our tribe. Who are the clients who I'm drawn to and who are going to be drawn to me? If I stop trying to be that extroverted person that can walk into the party, because if that's not me, why am I trying to be that person? So I think the traits that most lawyers share is that instinctively, Dr. Larry Rich has done some great research on this. Lawyers are low in sociability compared to the general population. And I'm going to say we, because I was a lawyer, low in empathy. We're thin-skinned. We are quite, we're not that resilient. These are the attributes that sometimes make us quite risk averse. They make us fantastic lawyers, because that's great. You want your attorney to be risk averse. You don't want him to be, all gung ho. And so what that means is I have to recognize that some of those things get in the way of me being the rainmaker. But everyone's got the potential if we just actually start to focus on where's my tribe, what's my authentic, where's my authentic place in this market? Because one of the best partners I worked with recently happens to be one of the most introverted people I've ever met. And what he realized was he just needs to find the clients that like that, because they're out there that like his style,
Mm-hmm.
that will trust him, that because he's obviously a very good lawyer as well. And when he realized part of his greatest skill was actually just being himself, then he was writing articles and bringing clients to him that was suitable for him, not for the partner next door, but for him. Does that? I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I answered the
No,
question, but
that resonates. That resonates very well with me, and I'll add that introverts in some ways have an advantage if we want to take it down that path. And the advantage is when given steps and skills and language that they can follow that makes business development and rainmaking predictable, and they then identify that there's proof and evidence that a system works for them. That
Mhm.
we all have systems for everything we do, but introverts thrive in systems. And when they get that down, then it's like unleashing this inner excitement about, hey, if I just do these steps and follow these rules and do these things in a certain way, I'm going to get an end result. And they can stick with it and make it a regimen and make it a habit. They can be incredibly successful where it might seem terribly scary and confusing because most introverts don't want to wing it. They don't want to put themselves out there in an uncomfortable way without a plan, without a process. So I think and that can then alter the mindset. So I think there's a number of things working in the introvert's favor if they want to step into it the right way.
I agree, but isn't it interesting how we don't see it? How the average lawyer just doesn't see that,
Yeah.
and I need to be out there. It's like when I grew up and I was going into the law. I remember my father saying to me, there's two types of lawyers, and this was probably true back in the 1980s. There's the partner who will win clients because he's on the golf course, he's constantly out there networking, and then there's the other lawyer that's the technical genius, and that's probably not you, Gavin. So go be out. Go be the golf course person. And he was right up to a point, because I think in the day, whatever that day was, that type of partner existed. But I don't know if you agree with me, Steve. It doesn't really, in my eyes, it doesn't exist anymore. You have to be both. You need to be a good technical lawyer, and you need to know how to be a strategic advisor and add value to your clients. You have to do both.
Yeah.
But the perception lingers. The perception lingers that I've got to be on the golf course and entertaining, and of course there's a place for it, but it's not for me what rainmaking is solely about.
But it's changed. I mean, I think that the golf course there for some people that's going to be their play, but there's so many people that are making it rain by starting a podcast, by speaking prolifically around the world, by networking and developing relationships that just pay back dividends after dividends after dividend. And you don't have to be the glad handing, lampshade on the head, party animal of days past. And I think lawyers, that misconception, I think keeps a lot of lawyers back from making the effort to grow a book and to take control of their career. Because I think you and I will both agree that in today's sort of challenging environment and competitiveness and economic turmoil, that having your own book of business could be the single most important thing next to being a great lawyer and having, sort of a great reputation of skill. If you're a rainmaker and you're feeling like you're on an island, you don't have anyone to share your ideas with, solve problems with, you're going to want to check out my Rainmaker roundtables. Click the link below and learn more.
Yes, I see that. And I also think that when we all tell ourselves these stories, and this is the kind of the psychology bit, the what do you want to call it? Blind spots or limiting assumptions. And again, I worked with someone recently who was so living in fear. He wanted to think about writing an article and was a private wealth lawyer, wanted to write an article, but was so fearful. Firstly, what would his peers and other firms think? Because there would be nothing new that he could write in that article. What if he made a mistake? And now we're getting into like the lawyer mindset. And so we just kind of unpack that because it's so common. And I said to him, I want you to do something for me. I don't know very much about what you do. I want you to write an article for me as if I'm reading it, because that's who you're appealing to. You're not writing for your lawyers in other law firms. And you're absolutely right. If what you write is no use to the reader, they're going to skip past. But I promise you, there will be someone out there who wants to read what you're writing and write it for them. And then within a few hours, he'd written an article, he sent it to me, it was great, and he published it. Just the fear, the stories that we tell ourselves. And it's like, I used to have a radio show here. I just stopped doing it in the south of France. And I fell into this trap that I was so harsh in judging myself. And the person I'm comparing myself to is like, well, if Sigmund Freud was listening to my show, he'd be thinking, that idiot, Gavin Sharpe, what's he talking about? But firstly, Sigmund Freud is dead. And secondly, that's not the people I'm talking to. And when we get that, again, we're just back to my point about we're unlocking our potential. And then we set ourselves free to go build our books, to do our stuff.
Yeah.
I've gone off. Sorry, Steve, I do this a lot. I go off.
There's no tangent here. It's this is all valuable for people listening because they're all weighing out the time and the effort and the potential risk of being a business developer or taking it to another level. And maybe that's where we go from here and sort of wrap up on this one subject, which is we've talked about the mindset. We've talked about the importance of business development. What are some things that you're seeing that help people to go to the next level? Like we can all, get out there and network. We can all write articles and we can do things to help get things moving in the right direction. People that want to build a really big book, multi-million-dollar book, what are the things or attributes that either you're seeing or what are you working with them on to help them get to that sort of next elevated spot?
Well, may sound oversimplistic. The first thing I'd say to them is lower the bar. Because someone sits there and let's say they have a 5 million book of business and they want it to be 10. It feels like such a gulf. And I'll say to them, okay, so what is the smallest step that you can take that might get you one step closer? And they may say something like, well, I know I'm going to contact 100 LinkedIn contacts. And I'll say, okay, but you're not going to, because we both know when you go back to your desk, you're going to do exactly what you were doing before. So what would make this feel like this was achievable? And then we'll get somewhere where they'll say, well, I think I'm going to contact 5. And I'll say, great. By when? Who are you going to be accountable to? Could be someone else. And I'll usually finish by saying, how motivated are you on a scale of 0 to 10? And they'll say, well, 7. I'll say, great that it's not a 6. Well done. How come not a 6? But how do we get you to an 8 or a 9? Because otherwise it's not going to happen. And I think if we just get to see that we can do this in bite-sized chunks, then each time you're getting one step closer, and then it feeds itself as it always does. Success feeds itself, and it's helping people sometimes see, and you've had so much beautiful stuff on your podcast. This is not about, don't see it as sales, see it as building relationships. Yeah. And, go out and listen to your client. I give the example of go to a restaurant and you can spot the couple who are dating on a first date or early dating. Because you'll see this couple hanging on each other's every word. They are listening intently because they don't want to miss something. Yeah. That's how we need to be with our clients. Go and develop that curiosity. Now, you can see the couples who've been married 10, 15 years because they're on the phones and they're not even looking at each other. Go and be like the couple early dating. So for me, it's about lowering the bar. It's about really deepening the relationships. And it's, look at those contacts you have. What problems do I think they have? Because if I can solve them, I'll solve them. So It's getting strategic. It's not just finding out the LinkedIn stuff. It's getting strategic. And for me, having small, actionable, I can do that. Yeah, if you give me 100 people to contact, I won't do it. Give me 5, yeah, I can do that.
And I just published an article in June about how to be successful without all the stress in rainmaking. And one of the things was, get rid of the big, nasty, hairy goal of 5 million to 10 million or 500,000 to 2 million. Those types of things are scary. So what can we do? Well, we can look at, to your point, developing regular habits, accountability to get things done. Maybe it's a matter of changing and being more authentic and getting out on more media. And then the last thing I was going to say is also people don't realize you might be just dealing and going after the wrong targets. You know, if you're dealing with, if you're in, let's just make, I'll say divorce, and you're getting mom and pa divorces at 10,000 and 15,000, that's great. You want to do the 50 to $100,000 divorces. Well, you need to go and deal with people who are engaging with the billionaires and the millionaires that have the bigger assets and opportunities. So same thing with litigation and M&A and all that. You got to go to the bigger fish and leverage the network you've created to get those meetings and take business away from maybe the big firms if you're not at the big firms.
Yeah, I think you have to be strategic, absolutely, about where you're aiming. And sometimes I also think the internal market in your own firm is, because I do a lot of coaching in groups, and it never ceases to amaze me that I can have a group of, and I'll coach usually 8 to 10, I don't go above 10 partners from a law firm. And in that group, and I will always want to mix the disciplines, the banking partner may never have met the private wealth partner. And or they don't really know what they do. And oh, do you act for that client? That I could come to one of those meetings, maybe we could and I'm like, how could you get to this point and not realize the potential that sat in front of you? And then I love to see them doing joint pitches and the cross-selling and so it's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that's it. And they're not, most firms are terrible with that. And the fact that they're bringing you in on that and having those conversations is critical, because there's so much business that's being left out there to other firms where they'd rather have the lawyer that they really trust and love that handles one thing, bring them in and then manage the team of and have it all in one place, or just not at 5 firms, at 1 firm or 2 firms.
Yeah.
Really great, Gavin. If let's take a moment and wrap up with our with Gavin's big mistake. What's a mistake you've made, and how did you deal with it and resolve it?
You didn't give me much notice before.
No, I sure didn't. No.
Exactly. Well, I could give you a string of mistakes. I think the mistake I made in the first part of my career was maybe a little bit like the rainmaking. I think I didn't show up authentically. And, when I ran my own search business, and I don't know, whatever we had, offices all over the world, I think it was partly playing the parts. And don't get me wrong, the business was immensely successful. We were the most, and it's gone on to be successful, which is a sign, I hope, that we built a great business long after I left. But a very successful business, but I don't think I had the confidence that the greatest asset I had was probably just to be me. And that sounds so trite and overused, but it's also so true. And I think what I've learned in the second part of my career is I will show up as me, and the clients that are supposed to work with me will work with me. And that also means I can lose pitches or I can turn them down, because those aren't I used the word tribe earlier. It's not my tribe. And I am also much happier finding that the clients who are drawn to me are meant to be, and vice versa. And I will deliver an authentic coaching relationship because it's coming from that place. And I wish I'd known that 15 years ago.
Yeah. It's a wonderful takeaway and a great way to wrap up the show. We need to, of course, thank our wonderful sponsors, the Law Her podcast with Sonia Palmer, putting out great content week after week for the women in law who are looking for next level tips and ideas. And of course, PIMCOM coming up with my friend Chris Dreyer over at Rankings.io, putting on a top-notch platform conference for PI attorneys in all over the world that are going to come in for that into, I think, Scottsdale. That's right. Fantastic. Gavin, thanks so much. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to hear more about your coaching, they want to engage you, what are the best ways for them to reach you?
Thank you. Through my website, which is rivierawellbeing.com, or just email me, gavin@rivierawellbeing.com. And I would, love to hear any thoughts, comments from people on the show. And I love to be challenged. So if people are listening and that doesn't sound right, I post them either on your comments or email me directly, because I'm always interested.
Yeah. And you're interesting. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate this conversation. We, believe it or not, I have a page of notes as I usually do, but ultimately, we're covering a lot of ground in mindfulness and in following systems and looking at mistakes and looking at opportunities to be authentic in all the different areas, accountability. I mean, we covered a tremendous amount of ground in half an hour. And that's really what the heart and soul of this show. So I think you kind of nailed it, whether you know it or not. I'm telling you, you nailed it. And this is going to be so helpful to my community. So thank you so much, man. And I want to keep the relationship between you and I going, because I think there's people that we can help, and there's ways that we can continue to collaborate.
I'd like it. I'd love this opportunity to take a dive into some of the issues we've touched upon. And I cannot go without saying I'm 2/3 of the way through your book. It's great. And it's so easy to follow because the chapters are all short. The points are so succinct. Genuinely, because remember now I'm authentic, for the Rainmakers listening, you need to get a copy of Steve's book.
Yeah, everybody, Be That Lawyer, 101 Top Rainmaker Secrets to Growing a Successful Law Practice. I appreciate you, Gavin. I appreciate you all for hanging out with us for 30 minutes and really, working on your business. And this is the show for that. So take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We will talk again soon. Are you ever curious what's really holding you back in business development? Sometimes it's hard to see the label from the inside of the bottle. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I can help you grow your book of business. Get a 30-minute free consultation with me. We'll identify gaps, identify your potential, and let's take it to the next level so you can be that lawyer. Click the link below for a free consultation.